Francis Small, whose photograph you see right here. It's not a very clear photograph, but this is the best we can get for the time being. Edward Francis Small. Now, Edward Francis Small was born on the 29th of January, 1891. And he died on a day, my brother, my sister, that many people considered as divine, on his birthday in 1958. My brother, my sister, he was a Gambian statesman who presently has been described as the trailblazer of Gambian political consciousness. Oh my God. Edward Francis Small, one of the few educated Africans in the Gambia colony and protectorate during the early 20th century. Small founded the country's first trade union. It was known as the Baptist Trade Union. Now, this was the country's first political party that was also founded by him, called the Ratepayers Association. Oh my God. And it became the very first citizen elected to its legislature. The Ratepayers Association's member called Edward Francis Small. The very first indigenous Gambian to be elected to its legislature, parliament. He was also a delegate to and leader of the National Congress of British West Africa, the NCBWA. Let us go into the life of this man. Our hero, Edward Francis Small, was born in 1891, as you were told. The son of John W. Small. John W. Small. Oh, yes. And Elizabeth Thomas. Now, his mother was a Sierra Leonean immigrant from the Aku people. Now, who are the Aku people? AKU. The Gambian Creole people are known as the Aku people. John was also from the Aku people. In other words, Gambian Creole. My brother, my sister. Father and mother from the Aku ethnicity. At the time of our hero's birth, Africa had already been partitioned by the 1844 Berlin Conference. Francis Small was initially educated in the Gambia, but due to the lack of a higher school, he had to relocate to Freetown in Sierra Leone, where education was bustling hot. There he went for his secondary education and then attended the Methodist Boys High School in Freetown. And in 1910, he became a teacher. Right there, he moved back to Bathurst in the Gambia. In 1915, after teaching in Freetown for some time, to continue working as a teacher in the Gambia. His parents were devout Christians. He joined the Wesleyan Methodist mission in Bathurst. He earned the respect of the mission people and was sent to open a mission in Balanga, then a thriving trading town and holiday resort. Little did he know that that was where it was all going to begin. He spent 18 months there before being sent to Sukuta, following a physical confrontation with a white trader there in Balanga. What was it all about? It was all about the bell, the ringing of the bell. Was the bell not rung at the right time? Was it rung too hard? The divisional commissioner sided with the white trader in the dispute, resulting in our hero Francis Small's removal to Sukuta. The incident has since been described as an imperialist maneuver in getting rid of an unwanted person. Whilst he was in Balanga, he was already gathering the traders, the indigenous ones trying to form a trades union. But he had been moved to Sukuta, and it looked like that dream had fizzled into thin air. Francis Small aimed to empower the ordinary people of Gambia, especially the farmers, the traders, and the workers. As one of the few educated Africans in the territory, he aimed to empower them with knowledge and information. He organized evening classes to teach literacy to the village people. And then he founded the first nationalist newspaper in the country, the very first one. He used this to reach his followers, even when in exile in Senegal. He founded the Gambia Native Defense Union, GNDU, alongside other Akus from his ethnicity. He also founded the Gambia Farmers Cooperative Association in 1917 and the Bartes Trade Union in 1929. He attended a conference in British West Africa, and Small set up the Gambian branch on his return. 2 years later, in 1922, he founded a newspaper called the Gambia Outlook and Senegambian Reporter, 2 newspapers. And they were published in Dakar, Senegal, and the Gambia. It was all about Pan-Africanism. In 1929, the trade union organized the country's first strike. His slogan was for much of his campaigning, and this was no taxation without rips in Africa, to push for the independence of his people. Yes, Francis Small and Nkrumah learned a lot from him. In fact, Kwame Nkrumah cited him several times in his journey into Pan-Africanism. My brother, my sister, he fought for his people to unite against the colonialists and take over independence. He was appointed to the Legislative Council on 31st of December 1941, representing Bartes Municipal Council. In 1947, we all know what 1947 means in our history. That was when Kwame Nkrumah was here in Ghana, in fact, the Gold Coast. And he did some interesting things here in 1947. My brother, my sister, watch this. In 1947, the first direct elections were held for a seat on the Legislative Council, backed by his trade union. Francis Small was victorious, defeating I.M. Garba Jahumpa and Sheikh Umar Faye. He was subsequently appointed to the Executive Council on the 11th of December 1947 and was later reappointed to the Council on the 18th of January and the 12th of June 1951. He continued to be involved in Gambian politics until his death in January 1958. Today we remember the man who opened the eyes of so many Africans to self-rule. He inspired our own Kwame Nkrumah. In fact, he was the one who founded the first political party in Gambia, Edward Francis Small, born in 1891. He came to the Gold Coast, inspiring the people here in 1921. In fact, 1920. He came here talking to us to move towards self-rule. My brother, my sister, in 1920, Francis Edward Small. Today we remember you, Papa. He didn't live long enough, my brother, my sister, to see the Gambia itself become independent. But he lived to see the Gold Coast become independent and Kwame Nkrumah becoming its first leader. He had direct contact with Kwame Nkrumah. Unfortunately, he died only a few months after the independence of Ghana. Today we remember you, Edward Francis Small. We remember the first Gambian statesman, the first man who opened the eyes of the Gambians to self-rule. He even came to the Gold Coast and opened our eyes to self-rule in 1920. Nkrumah was only 11. These were the people who opened the eyes of Kwame Nkrumah. Today we remember you, Papa. Papa, uninyamenko. Papa, uninyamenko wate. Uninyamenko. Papa, uninyamenko. 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 In the burden of knowledge, I ask you. Now that you know the story of Edward Francis Small, what would you do? Bianani ole mini oba fe yanzu da kagane mezaka yini. Yeah, pa bango bokaya nang fifia yenyanuka ina.